And we're live. Gen morning, everyone. I hope you guys are doing amazing. And welcome to today's live stream. My name is Tony. I'm the head of content and community for GenLayer Labs. And today with us we have David, who is the CEO of the GenLayer Foundation, and we have with us Kate, who is the partnerships lead at IONET. You guys have probably heard of our partnership from last week's announcement. This week, we decided to follow up with the official live stream. And that's the reason why we have David and Kate on today. Before we dive into the details of this partnership and what it enables, the use cases and the dApps for developers as well as for validators alike, I would like to share the information most of you know from our Thursday live stream, which is at the end of the session, we're going to have a first come, first serve POAP mint. So get your POAP Home app ready. You can download it on the App Store as well as the Google Play Store. And you simply have to pass the secret passkey. At the end of this session, I'll share it in around 30 minutes. And then you can simply mint your POAP. Again, it's first come, first serve. We have 250 POAPs to be minted. I'm going to ping the POAP Home app here as well, so you can download it beforehand. Well, that being said, I would like to give the floor to Kate and David. And before we start, let's refresh our knowledge of IONET and GenLayer. And I would kindly ask you guys to give us a short introduction on IONET and on GenLayer. If we probably start with you, Kate.
Great. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited for this. Been looking forward to it all week. So a bit of background into IONET. Think of us as kind of like the Airbnb for GPUs. We got our start by realizing that the hyperscaler model is prohibiting developers from accessing critical compute resources when they need it in real time, and at a cost-effective price point. So we aggregate GPUs from data centers all over the world to create the IONET network and make those available on demand. So developers can come in and use GPUs and spin up clusters and actually pay by the hour or week, month, whatever you need for your model training, inference, fine tuning, what have you, thus creating much more flexibility for anyone building in the AI space. Now, on top of this, on top of this network, we also realized the need to start creating additional tools for teams that want access to inference, RAG, or model training and fine tuning, and that's where IO Intelligence was introduced earlier this year, a few quarters ago. So what we'll be speaking about mostly today is IO Intelligence and our Inference API, built on top of our decentralized network, which hosts over 25 open source models for teams to tap into for inference, or in this case, for validation. And yeah, really excited to dig into our partnership a little bit more with you guys today.
Amazing. Thank you, Kate. David, what is GenLayer?
Yeah, many of you probably know if you have been already here in other lives, but GenLayer, we define GenLayer as a trust infrastructure for the AI age. What does it mean? Like the breakthrough that we did around 2 years ago when we started building GenLayer is to achieve to have a non-deterministic consensus. What does it mean? Like normally the consensus of all the blockchains is deterministic. No, all the blocks need to say exactly the same in order to arrive to a conclusion. But what happens? Like the real world, it's not black or white. Things are not deterministic at all. And if you think about non-deterministic things, you directly think about LLMs, AI models and all that stuff. Each time that you run a prompt, you have a different answer. No, and then like what we did, it's like to create a system where multiple agents, to say it that way, like nodes that are connected, each of them to a different LLM provider, could hit a consensus in order to arrive to conclusions that are not deterministic, that are not black or white. No, by doing this, like we can create hundreds, if not thousands, of new primitives that before were not possible in the Web3 ecosystem, that mainly would be non-deterministic, as I said, use cases. For example, as we have just announced some days ago, Rally.Fan, that it's a protocol that it's powered by the gel layer technology, that it could determine what is the value of, for example, a tweet that you have given, like that you have done, and evaluate if it's more valuable than the one that another people had, if it has had more impact, whatever like that, in a decentralized and trustless way, no, without trusting on a single third party. This is gel layer. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, David. I think we're also going to get to more use cases. So to everyone who's listening, we're going to make it very hands-on, use case and depth focused, because I really do want to know what Kate and David think of applications that could be built on top of GenLayer, also powered by IONet's network. Before we delve into the use cases and the dApps that can be built, I think it's important to understand why this partnership makes sense, right? We had a few announcements in the last few weeks around inference providers, and now if you look at GenLayer's stack, how does IONet fill that stack, like the stack of inference, the inference stack of you're a validator, you can plug into any model that you want, and now you have IONet. How does it work, and what does IONet do for GenLayer, David?
Yeah, as Kate explained, like IONet has multiple different products. Then there is multiple ways to using their system plugged into our solution, to say that way. The first one that could be maybe the more obvious one, it's to power the validators. No, specifically to power the validators, as many of you know, each validator could decide what LLM, what AI model wants to run. This is key for our infrastructure to have like as many different LLM models like as possible. This is important because of prompt injection. Like if everybody is using the same model and you know what are the models that other people is using, you can prompt inject the system. That it would mean like doing something that it's harmful for the network because you already know the biases of the AI model per se. No. Then the first point that for me will be critical, it's like to having different models, multiple models, different ones, decentralized, centralized, and everything. This is key for us. The second thing that for me it's more interesting about IONet, and I believe that it will be one of the biggest use cases in our network, it's more focused on the raw compute, because like there is a lot of partners that offer decentralized inference and this kind of stuff, but they are not focused on the cluster of GPUs and CPUs, more in a how to say it, more into a one by one way. Like normally they are more focused on, okay, yes, you can use a model or a system that has been trained by a third party, and that's it. In the case of IONet, like the cool thing that you can do, it's like use it in order to train like a large language model if you want to train from scratch, or for example, that I believe that it's the most interesting use case in our for our examples, it's the updating a pre-trained model. That this would be especially important, not at the beginning, to be honest, I strongly believe, but as the network evolves, like our nodes can run different models depending on the intelligent contract that they are answering. No?
Yeah.
And then, for example, if you have an intelligent contract that it's specifically focused on law, American law, to say something, probably you don't want to use a generic model because it's not perfect for that. No, and probably you want to the steel, fine tune, you update, whatever like that, a larger model, not only because maybe it will be smarter, but also because it will be cheaper, because like you can create a more small model coming from a bigger or heavier model. And these are some of the use cases and things that are for me more interesting about IONET, apart of course the cost. No, probably some of you, if you have run any LLM power up or whatever, normally if you connect through third-party providers, you are attached to tiers and things like that. And the cool thing about IONET is that, as Kate mentioned at the beginning, you pay per use. No, and this is something also important because like we don't know when specific intelligent contracts will be run or not, and then you don't want to be paying for something that maybe you are not using. And this combined, it's what excites me a lot about this collaboration. Yeah.
Okay, if we look, I think there's a lot to unpack here, David, and I think we can give more, practicable use cases when we look into dApps potentially being built on GenLayer. If you look at it from IONET's perspective, Kate, like why does it make sense to integrate with GenLayer? Now, you, let's say broadly, in a broad way, you provide inference. Like, what does that mean, and what does GenLayer give you? Like, is it usage? Is it kind of, okay, you have to onboard a lot of new partners who are then going to use the inference, because at the end of the day, it's a business that also has to generate money, right? Like, what is it about GenLayer that makes it exciting for you guys?
Well, yeah, I think like you touched on, there are many, many exciting facets to this partnership. I think the first is also, to David's point, offering your user base with an alternative to closed models and more centralized providers like OpenAI. And yes, this model diversity is incredibly important when intelligent contracts are responsible for bigger and bigger decisions over time. And I think the primary motivator for this partnership is really the GenLayer vision. So we have seen, I guess we've seen decentralized AI evolve over the last years in really, really surprising ways. And one way that I think it's really sort of overhauling the way that we think about what a smart contract is capable of is by bringing the power of LLMs to make decisions, make smart contract lock decisions on more subjective matters and data sets. Previously, you couldn't do this at all. I came from the world of oracles, and really the only data points that you had would be sports outcomes, election outcomes, weather, and price. But there are so many data points out there that and decisions that can't really be measured that way, or don't typically have an API endpoint. So I'm really excited about where GenLayer is taking the AI space and decentralized AI space in particular.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you just mentioned about oracles. I had a conversation the other day with a friend, and he's like, "Yeah, I work for a startup, and if you need data, like, why would you need GenLayer data fetching capability? Because if you need any data, you just you just basically call Chainlink, and you're like, okay, guys, I need this data on chain." But that's not how it works, right? You only have, I don't know if any one of you wants to chime in here, just feel free to. You have only predefined data sets, which they have to basically, it's a very complex mechanism, and different oracles are doing it different ways, right? They have a gated system where they pull the data from the internet or from any data source, and then they have to communicate with the smart contract. So they have to bridge the gap from off-chain to on-chain, and usually it's a predefined data set, right? You want to fetch data from whatever, the gold price. Well, you can do that, but you got to set up this whole predefined data set. I don't know how much work it is, to be frank. I don't know if any of you guys have more experience with that, but it's not that easy as to fetch just any data. If you look at parametric insurance, where you have excuse me, if you look at flight insurance, for instance, that one of our partners is doing, you actually can't predefine a data set, because you would have to fetch data from different websites, departures and arrivals eventually from flights, to check if the flight is delayed and you are eligible for your insurance. That's just one example of why oracles are not what they promised. And actually, I think someone in our community once said, generally is like the original promise of oracles that they had when they just first came up. It's like oracles on steroids. So
Yeah, it's
I
a good
like it.
definition. I like it. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Mm.
Okay, before we unpack specialized models, David, I didn't forget about this, is if we look at, people listening today, builders, users are going to be like, okay, inference is interesting. We need inference, understandable. You have applications that hold a lot of money. What kind of dApps does it enable in general? First, starting, from a broader perspective of, you have intelligent contracts, you have inference. Why is it important? And you touched on this briefly before, David. And why? What kind of dApps can be built, or what kind of dApps fascinate you the most?
Yeah. As you have just said an example, but the thing that excites me more for this specific example are very niche kind of dApps. No, that in order to say some examples, could be focus on medical aspects, could be focus on law, could be focus on anything that you need a niche expertise. And also another vertical that I would say some examples that for me could be very interesting. It's like very repetitive tasks, no? Like very repetitive tasks that are pretty easy to guess, right? Like, and with this kind of stuff, you don't want to be running GPT 3.0, like, or whatever like that, because it's pretty expensive for that, and you don't need this level of reasoning or similar stuff. Then for this, I would specifically use IONET to fine-tune a bigger model for this specific use case, and then do the same, like 10, 20, 50 times cheaper, no? We can keep talking hours about these specific examples, but if we want to deep dive on repetitive tasks, could be things regarding Internet of Things, like that it's Boolean kind of stuff, easy things to guess, or things that you already know that you trust on the website that will give the results about a football match or anything like that, and you only want to have, like, a little bit of a decentralized system to agree that this is true, that and the system hasn't been compromised some way by for example, having an LLM that it's hallucinating, no, that it's something that happens a lot, or maybe that there was a middleman or something like that interfering on the result of the web page. Then these both directions that I'm mentioning, that it would be or very niche use cases or very repetitive tasks, are the kind of things that I believe that the IONET could be a stronger collaborating with GenLayer.
Okay, Kate, you were nodding along. What do you have to say about that?
I would be remiss if I didn't shill one upcoming product feature that we have launching in the next couple of weeks, which is our model training as a service. So as David pointed out, you'll be able to train and fine-tune models within a few clicks using all sorts of data sets, be it legal, medical, for some of these niche and more specific use cases that require a fine-tuned model. So, wow, am I am I excited about what we can do with this partnership here? sort of expanding upon the use cases that he mentioned, I also think prediction markets are another really cool, ripe opportunity. I think that I saw a few days ago even that Grok and Polymarket have a partnership. I know that for now, Grok is just sort of like summarizing some of the outcomes for different bets and predictions, but I think that now that we have opened up sort of the world of data, and all sorts of subjective points, the types and functionality and flexibility that you'll have in prediction markets to get kind of wacky are definitely opened up now. So that's another one. And then one more that I'm excited about that's also near and dear to my heart. I think you mentioned this already, is parametric insurance. So for all sorts of, like you said, flight insurance, weather and crop insurance, which could connect, as David mentioned, to the Internet of Things and all of the sensors around the world. These are industries that are sort of lagging behind. And with GenLayer, I think that we'll be able to see providers come in that can really greatly increase accuracy and also speed time to resolution. I don't know about you guys, but I had to get flight canceled a few months ago, and I'm still waiting for the airline to reimburse me.
Yeah, that's
So I'm
horrible.
really, yeah, it is. It is. It's an integrated system.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
That
yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah, no, that I wanted to mention that doubling down on what you are saying, um, in order that also people that it's hearing us can learn more about GenLayer. This is a little bit our vision, no? That I have explained it very technically to see that way, but our vision is to become a kind of court of the internet, no? And in this vision of becoming a court of the internet, what Kate mentioned, it's very important because somehow, like for example, in any vertical, in the parametric insurance, in the traditional legal system, in whatever, like there is a kind of jury or somebody that is deciding if this money goes back to you or not, for example, for this flight that got canceled, right? And normally these processes like are very slow and tedious because like they rely on humans, maybe sometimes should be approved by the council, a board, or whatever. Like, and with AI, we already we are already able to start doing these kind of things in seconds instead of months, years, or whatever. No, like we are talking even about years. No, in the
Yeah.
legal system, if you have like a penal trial or anything like that, and this is crazy. And I know that somehow this could seem a little bit far away yet, but imagine 6 months ago that probably we were saying the same for coding. No, wow, I'm coding a very a financial solution.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to use AI because they will do crazy stuff on my code. No, and now like everybody, I would say almost any developer that I know, it's using AI 90% of the time for coding. No, and for me the craziest example, it's cars. No, like probably very soon I believe that we will rely more on autonomous cars. We will be more confident of having a car that it's driving by itself than having a human driving a car. No, and if we are
Yeah.
relying on our lives in a car, why not relying on an AI kind of jury? No, it's not, if you compare it like that way, it's not crazy at all. But
Yeah.
I know that it's a lot of things happening very quickly in very few, I would say, even months, and it's difficult to process. But this is the direction that we are going, and together with this collaboration, we will be closer to achieve this. Because a key thing about to achieve this, it's sometimes it's purely about cost. No, for example, and there is other options, like as you mentioned, for example, oracles, like it could be Chainlink, or also there is solutions to resolve markets like UMA. No, that now there, maybe it's not the best moment to talk about UMA because there has been a lot of news during these last days.
Not
But
only now. I think in the last year and a half, people
yeah,
have had
that's
enough to
true.
talk about UMA, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. That's completely true. But for example, economics are crucial because we are talking about game theory, no? And sometimes there is things that are amazing but doesn't work because of cost. And that's why, like, if you need to have a big enough system of multiple people agreeing in something, you need that inference it's cheap enough in order to run this system. That's why it's not a partnership like the one that we are mentioning. It's not a random one, or it's not a nice to have. It's crucial in order to do things at the
Yeah.
scale. As I say, specifically, in my opinion, of course, it could be used for any contract, for any node or whatever, but specifically would be extra beneficial for niche use cases or repetitive tasks.
Yeah. Kate, I see you nodding along. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that. Otherwise, I'd like to address the question we have in the chat.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's with this comparison about the legal system, it's almost like every LLM could be a juror, bringing their own sort of analysis of a subjective situation. I think that's very interesting. But again, another reason why we can't rely upon one or two models. You're
Yeah.
going to need multiple models to participate in this jury.
Okay,
Sorry.
I wanted to chime in on this for like 5 minutes now, but now that you've brought it up again, I have to, Kate. So, Burgomaster, I see your question, and David will address it, or we will address it jointly in 1 minute. What you mentioned with legal system, high stakes applications, it's exactly like, why do we need multiple jurors? Because, imagine you go in a trial somewhere and a single judge decides that you're jailed for 5 years, whatever. You go to a court of a higher instance, you have 5 judges sitting in front of you, and 3 of them decide that, the first judge was wrong. You are free, you are a free man for whatever you did, it wasn't a crime, whatever. 2 judges say, no, it was a crime, right? So you have a majority that, people believe in. It's trust that you have in the legal system. You have these lawyers who are all, these judges are all well-trained, went through law school, multiple years of education. Well, now these AI models and these LLMs have multiple years of education, went through the training, are trained on huge data sets, can even be specialized, as Kate and David said before. So you actually, in a dApp that's holding potentially billions of dollars, or agents who are transacting and arguing on a contract of worth more than millions or billions eventually, you don't want one LLM to decide if this is true or not, because these LLMs have biases. Like, we are not even talking about intelligent, because us 3, Kate, David, and I, we could be the most intelligent people on planet Earth, but we would still have our biases, right? Just because you're very intelligent, it doesn't mean that you're not, whatever, in a political sense, for instance, leaning to the right or to the left. Whatever is right. That's the first question, right? So yeah, I just wanted to chime in on that, for our users to also understand, and our listeners to also understand why we think that it needs this decentralized consensus, majority consensus, by multiple intelligent LLMs.
And I would even add something on that it would be like public pressure, no? Like, and that it's not only bias. That normally we only talk about bias normally, even myself. But when you were saying that, I was thinking a lot about public pressure. For example, if it's something that in each moment of history, we are more inclined sometimes in a direction or another direction, specifically also depending on the government that is ruling the country, or whatever is the place, no? And then sometimes juries feel this pressure, as we feel this pressure for anything, no? It's a normal bias that we have. Then on this kind of a scenario, sometimes there is this I don't know the word that is used. There was a word, but sometimes there is this kind of trials that the answer is a very specific one, only to showcase to the population that you are a good government, or that you are good to it, like whatever. But maybe it was not the first thing. It was only to showcase the world that that you are doing things in the direction that your government is saying, or something like that. And it could we could think about thousands of examples in different directions, but inside this same kind of context that I'm mentioning. By saying that, LLMs don't give a fuck about like pressure, public pressure. You know, it's like it's no, this is it. I have been trained that way or whatever. No, adding on that, of course, anyway, they can be wrong. No, not only they can be wrong, they can hallucinate. No, both things that are slightly different, one thing than the other. It does. That's why we need this majority consensus that you were mentioning. No, how does it work in order that people that maybe don't know us could understand it? In our case, we call this. We haven't coined that concept. It already exists. This is called optimistic democracy, and what we did, it's like create a system that of AIs that could do optimistic democracy. It's optimistic because it starts using the minimum number of nodes possible, in that case 5 nodes, and then it scales only if necessary. What does it mean? For example, if there is any decision that should be taken, for example, going into the example that Tony was mentioning, that maybe it's very high level, but we maybe it's easy to understand, is does this person needs to go to jail? No, there will be some evidences and stuff, but there will be 5 people, one leader that will take a decision, and the other ones that will agree or disagree with the leader. If there is a majority agreement, this decision is taken as correct. No matter that, anybody, no matter if it's a human or another AI, can dispute that and say, no, I believe that the decision was not correct. If you do this by putting a bond of money that you will you will win money if you were correct and lose it if you were faking that, no? Then if you dispute it, then you would go into a 2n plus 1 nodes, another round, no? And instead of 5, you will have 11. And this process is repeated until reaching agreement. And this is what makes the system like very attractive, no? Because it's very efficient at the beginning, but it could scale as somebody flags the decision was not correct, that it could happen at the beginning with only 5 nodes, but it's very improbable that it happens if you have thousands of different nodes, each of them using a different LLM and everything like that. This is what it's called Condorcet-Jury theorem, no? And it says that if the probability of deciding or knowing something is higher than 50%, no, you can predict a coin flip. And at the same time, like the juries are not correlated, no? Because if they are 100% correlated, it means that it's the same. And if they are less correlated, it's not a problem at all that they are a little bit correlated, but then you will need a higher number of nodes, of juries. Each time that you add more juries into the equation, as the bias are individual, but each of them have different biases, like the bias will somehow eliminate by adding a lot of different juries and arrive to a more concrete and a better and more correct decision.
Okay, let me make what you just said, David. I think we could have an example on this with Burgomaster's question from before. What would happen if after a football match, everyone started using Genlayer? So Burgomaster is talking about a prediction market. Everyone had, whatever, Liverpool FC playing Manchester, and people betted on Liverpool, on a draw, and on Manchester. Now you have people using Genlayer to find out the winner of the bet. Would mean people are sending in transactions to get their payout, their cash out from the prediction, right? From Liverpool playing Manchester. Now he's asking, will Genlayer be able to handle 100,000 requests at once? Could it be done with IONet's help? I would assume, and I think you can describe the technicalities of that, David, that the intelligent contract resolves the prediction market once the event happens anyway. So you have Liverpool playing Manchester, it's over. The prediction market, the intelligent contract that you signed on to bet resolves the prediction, and then you would have to send through a transaction, which would then basically pull transaction that would send you back the money from the intelligent contract. I'm not sure if it would be automated, David. Like the intelligent contract is not automatically sending out the funds. You would have to request it with a transaction, but then you would have validators agreeing that the transaction is correct. You can get your money from that.
Yeah,
I think
first of all, if we reach this number of transactions, we can retire and we will build a castle with a lot of pools and a rocket.
Yeah.
This is the first thing. But second, yeah, you can build anything with a layer, no? But normally it wouldn't be very smart to do 100,000 requests for the same result. That it could be done,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make any sense. Probably, as there could be, there is two directions, no? Like the first one is that it's, for example, a prediction market that it's that there is a market that will decide if what team has won a match, no? And everybody will bet on that, and at the end of the day or after the match happens, like it will be resolved only once, no? And each time that it's running a different prediction market will be like will decide it once. This is the first thing. Second, but it's true that maybe somebody will build a peer-to-peer prediction market. That I'm giving ideas for the people that it's listening. If not,
Build
probably
it.
I will be the
Build
one
it.
that no, like I'm already doing prototypes of that. But we are happy to fund these people that build this kind of stuff. We are giving grants for this kind of stuff, no? But a peer-to-peer prediction market would be a prediction market that you do only with a friend. That it could be done. No, yeah. Instead of the traditional prediction markets that already exist, maybe I could say, Tony, I bet you $100 that tomorrow rains in Berlin. And he said, no, I'm sure that tomorrow won't rain. Okay, I bet you $100. You can create a peer-to-peer prediction market, or for the same with the football match. No, I can say, I'm sure that tomorrow Football Club Barcelona will score 2 goals. No, I can do this kind of stuff. And then, of course, if I do this peer-to-peer market, like the market will be resolved once per decision, no? In that case, for us and another person, maybe a lot of people create randomly by chance the same prediction market, and then this could be resolved hundreds of times or thousands of times. Then there will be two things. In this very improbable scenario, everything is a matter of like the gas it's being paid or by the prediction market that decides, no? For example, in the case of Polymarket, to say an example, they are the ones that pay the decision. It's not paid by the user, then there is not a problem at all. But maybe if it's a peer-to-peer thing, or the price would be added on the transaction, or you will be paying for the transaction. This is something. Then, like if there is 100,000 transactions to be resolved about the same topic, the validators and the guys of the intelligent that has run the intelligent contracts will be super happy. Then will be amazing for the network. Then everybody will be extremely happy. But in this case, will be the users that will need to pay, and the fact that the nodes are running like cheaper models and all that stuff will make that their margins are bigger or smaller depending on the models that they are running. And then another thing related to that will be throughput of the network. No, it's like it's the blockchain able to handle enough TPS, transactions per second. Luckily, GenLayer, it's a roll-up of ZK Sync. ZK Sync also some days ago like announced like newer improvements, new chains and everything that handle each time more and more TPS. In a hypothetical case that someday we arrive to this crazy amount of transactions that we are mentioning, like I don't know exactly if it's tomorrow, if it's in 1 year, how much TPS will be able to handle on that way. But I'm sure that if somebody is able to handle it, we will be the ones because of the good partners that we have.
I just did the math, David. Right now, with the current infrastructure, it's around a good hour to pay out all those 100,000 requests with the current max TPS. Now, so today, in half a year, it's going to be way higher, right? So it's going to be way more. With 100,000 that we will potentially only reach in a few months or in a year or whatever, 100,000 transactions, in fact, is a lot. Like not even Polymarket probably has that many. But looking at the infrastructure behind powering that, Kate, if we look at, high throughput inference, what does that mean, for the people watching here, and what does it mean for, the builders, How do you use that? What are your typical, clients or customers, users that you see on IONET?
Sure. So when it comes to, I think for any of these outcomes, we are going to want to see fast results, right? For our sports betting payouts, what have you.
Yeah.
So here, this is where it's really important to have a provider that is optimized for speed, throughput, and latency. So time to first token. There are a number of different ways that our product team and engineering has optimized performance and also made sure that it is scalable through lots of load testing over the last months. So able to handle, thousands of concurrent queries to the API. There are a lot of different things that you can look out for. I think understanding the hardware that you're running on, that plays a huge role in your throughput and latency, in addition to how optimized your model has been and API has been. In terms of the common users that we're seeing today, they really range across the board. So we have lots of builders who are using IO Intelligence as a wrapper for our models. So let's say you're creating a travel agent or maybe like a prediction model agent to help you optimize your bets. That's one big area where we're seeing inference. The other is on sort of agent creation platforms as well. And then for any teams that need that underlying model for inference and also for RAG. So enterprises using this and pairing it with RAG so that you can query and look through the results of your own internal or personal documents. So that's another
Okay.
sort of interesting aspect of IO Intelligence. But yeah, it can be used by anyone from a developer. Shout out, we just finished our first hackathon. So developers can plug in and use our agent framework or Inference, all the way up to enterprises who are sort of using this for all sorts of use cases between sort of internal process management and work streams to building out sort of agents to handle conversations and tasks with external customers.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on the first hackathon. I'm going to have a CTA for you guys, or actually Kate's going to have a CTA for you guys, as well as David, on where you can check out the resources for hackathons and where you guys can learn more about the projects, because we are approaching the end of this live stream. And we haven't even properly talked about specialized models and their importance in dApps. We have like half of the questions I wrote down, I didn't even touch on, because it was just so interesting to hear your guys' opinion and answer the questions. I would like, though, to check the chat if there's any more questions. Well, there is Alexei saying, hopefully Generator will solve the airline industry problems as well, especially Ryanair, because I feel sorry for our cryptonies. So the backstory of this is, I hate Ryanair. So I'm a certified Ryanair hater. I will do everything to avoid flights with Ryanair. And one flight actually got, first I think it got delayed. I have a long history with them. One got delayed, one then got fully canceled, and I had to wait like 4 months for my refund. Well, actually, with one of our partners, for instance, Etherisk, you could sign insurance policies and it would pay you out very fast. Even with the example that Burgomister just had, with the 100,000 transactions, even if it takes 3 hours, which is worst case scenario, it's still faster than getting your money after a polymarket resolution from UMA. And it only costs around $1. With UMA, you would pay multiple $1,000s, especially if it's 100,000 transactions. So that means that the market, the volume is also really high. So it's still around 2 days faster, even if we wait 3 hours for everyone to get her or his money back. It's still 2 days faster than the current solutions we have. or current solutions that are being used by, for instance, Polymarket. Okay, let me just quickly check in the chat if there's any other questions. Are you gonna write every update? Oh, okay, that's another thing. Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, we kind of touched on this one already. Can you share examples of real-world use cases where IONET's GPU clusters will power Genlayer's intelligent contracts, such as an AI to AI transactions or dynamic oracles? Yeah, Jay, we touched on this at the very beginning of our live stream, so I would just say, if when you rewatch it, it's going to be available on X in a few minutes. You can just go back and take a look at what David and Kate just said at the very beginning. Okay, team. Again, I'm very well aware that time's running out. So, yeah, last remarks. Kate, probably we start with you. Where can people get more information about IONET, how to participate in your hackathons for developers, builders, users, where to go?
Check out, give us a follow on Twitter, where we'll be socializing all sorts of programs we have coming up, our hackathon, our grants program, upcoming webinars as well. We'll be having one specific to IO Intelligence next week. So if you would like to use IO Intelligence as a validator or as a dApp builder, definitely come, and we'll look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, I can also say, oh, sorry. Thanks, Kate. I can also say that follow Genlayer on X, join our Discord. David, where to go if I'm a developer, I'm thinking of building a dApp, I'm a validator. What can I do right now in Genlayer?
Sure. Well, first of all, yeah, also follow us here on Genlayer. Like you are seeing probably this live through our channel, then very easy. Second, you can also follow myself or whatever in order that I will, and to contact me directly and ask me any question, like follow up, tell me what you're building, ask for help, whatever. And then also at some point, no matter if it's now directly or later, if you have some questions before, through the website of Genlayer.foundation, you have the /grants that you will have a form that will read every day. And there you can apply with your idea, explaining or whatever. And this is a very nice way to come directly to our pipeline and start building with us. Then I suggest you a lot to do it, because also we are incentivizing a lot now with a grant program that we announced now a couple of weeks ago or something like that, and we are helping a lot builders to start building with us.
Yeah, heck, if I wouldn't work for Genlayer, I would apply for the grant program, but there's other things to do as well. So
you can apply, Tony. We will think about that.
Thank you.
This afternoon we talk about
that. In private, behind closed doors.
In private.
Okay,
that's true.
Guys, thank you very much. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, David. Thanks for taking the time. Don't forget to mint your pod, IO-Gen. That's it for today, and have fun rewatching the live streams for those of you who couldn't join today. See you around. See you on Discord. See you on Twitter. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.